Today we will consider energy, the energy that it takes to create well-being, and mass, movement and flexibility of the body and of the mind, and light, the lightness of finding joy and happiness in the here and now through the mindful practices of yoga and meditation. And if these things are interesting to you, then you might begin your own practice. And your decision to practice might bring about a positive change in your life or in your world in ways that are seen and unseen. Today we celebrate the work of Albert Einstein, who revolutionized scientific thought through curious observation and study, just as the ancient yogis experienced their work as science through repetition, through practice over a long period of time. Today, I'd like to share with you this work, things that I know to be true, things that have been discovered by others, and what I think may be possible through these practices of mindfulness. Now, I'm not a scientist. I'm a yoga teacher and a longtime student of yoga philosophy and history, and I've had the privilege of sharing this work over the last 25 years and have seen the ways that these practices have shaped and even altered the trajectory of people's lives. One of Einstein's greatest discoveries was in defining gravity. And we know that gravity is the force that holds us down. We can also think of it sometimes as the energy that drags us down, the heaviness of anxiety, stress, and worry, the weightiness of the world held on our shoulders. So let's engage with gravity and challenge it a bit right here and now. Bring some awareness to your seated posture. If your legs are crossed, uncross them. And put your feet flat down on the ground. Good. Draw your shoulders back. Press up through the crown of your head. Sink down into your seat and sit tall. Just notice how it feels. As you resist the downward force of gravity, this posture not only looks more elegant, it feels more awake and more alive. There's more room for deep, full breathing, more oxygen, more energy. Awareness of your breath and awareness of your posture, whether you're seated or standing, are all parts of yoga. The latest Yoga in America study says that there are over 36 million people practicing yoga today. That's more than 120,000 times the number of people in this room right now. So with a show of hands, how many of you currently have a yoga or meditation practice? Awesome. Wow. Great. And how many of you are thinking about starting one, considering it, curious? Anybody? Yeah. You'd be joining the more than 80 million people who say that they're going to start a yoga practice this year alone. And I'm sure that there are plenty of you out there, and you do not need to identify yourselves, who are not at all interested in these so-called Eastern contemplative practices. You can't imagine sitting in meditation or resting in relaxation when there's just so much to do. And you might think that stress motivates you to be your best, that it helps you to feel more energized, more creative. But we know that chronic stress can undermine your immune system. It makes you vulnerable to disease. It affects your overall health and well-being. Chances are, if any of you do currently have a mindfulness practice, you might remember what brought you to your mat or to your cushion in the first place. Because quite often, it's our life's challenges, the big traumas, or the little ones that add up over time. What brought me to my mat was not of my own accord. I was encouraged to take a class by someone who I now call a very wise woman. She was my therapist at the time. After the birth of my second child and 2 high-risk pregnancies. Imagine having to spend 49 days on complete bed rest. The only thing you could get up for would be to use the bathroom or to visit your doctor, either a planned visit or one of several emergencies. Well, that was me before my son Nicholas was born. 4.5 pounds, 6 weeks early in 1988. And I guess I didn't plan things very well, because when he was just 18 months old, I was back in bed for another 65 days before our daughter Libby was born, 2.5 pounds, 11 weeks early in 1990. These were very difficult days for me and for our family. And it was the beginning of my love affair with yoga. And by the way, both of these little ones are grown up now, happy, healthy, strong, and living wonderful lives. You see, yoga is a holistic practice of body, mind, and spirit. These parts of us that are intricately connected. A yogic philosophy says that we are all deeply connected to one another, and that we are deeply connected to the natural world around us. The ancient yogis, saints, and sages through the ages, they said that we suffer because we think we're separate. And these practices are designed to remind us who we truly are. As I like to say, 100% human and 100% divine. Which brings me back to Einstein, who said with a very yogic perspective, something like this: a human being is part of a whole called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He considers himself, his thoughts and feelings, to be something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. He says that this delusion creates a kind of prison for us. It restricts us to our personal desires and to affection for those persons who are closest to us. He said that we must widen our circle of compassion by including all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. A scientific study in 2010 by Killingsworth and Gilbert said that a human mind is a wandering mind, and that a wandering mind is an unhappy mind. It seems the yogis knew this to be true centuries ago. Back around 200 BC, the ancient yogi and teacher and sage Patanjali gathered together all the information that had been passed down through the centuries, mostly in an oral tradition, in a book that he called the Yoga Sutras, that defined the benefits and the practices of yoga and meditation. Patanjali laid out a roadmap to quiet the wandering mind. He said that these practices would bring contentment and ease and quiet the thought waves of the mind for those who followed the methodology over time. Today, scientists are quite literally mapping out thought waves. They're also measuring changes in gray matter. For practitioners, these are changes that are known as neuroplasticity. It says that our brains can rewire and adapt. They're also showing changes in something called fluid intelligence, abstract thinking, reasoning, and problem solving that normally deteriorate as we age. Science is also showing promising results in the areas of trauma, depression, anxiety, insomnia, aging, pain reduction, blood pressure, heart rate, and more. For chronic disease, mindfulness might not cure, but it sure can help us to cope. And every major research study shows stress reduction as a benefit of these practices. Now, usually, when we think about yoga, we think about the physical practice. We think about the postures. But today, because yoga has become so mainstream, especially in the media, we tend to see pictures of thin, young, flexible, mostly white, mostly women in impossible poses. But yoga can be for every body, all ages, shapes, sizes, levels of ability, and backgrounds. You do not need to be perfectly fit, perfectly strong, perfectly healthy to begin. And it never has to be complicated. And guess what? Yoga can be fun. As kids, we were always challenging gravity. We'd hop, skip, jump, swing on swings, hang on the monkey bars, would get upside down, and we would turn all around. Our yoga practice can help us to reclaim that sense of playfulness, to be uplifted, lighter, brighter, defying gravity, or closer to the earth, rooted, grounded, settled, embracing gravity. I know now why I fell in love with yoga. after over 100 days of being on bed rest. It helped me to unwind the deep, heart-clenching fear and uncertainty of my baby's premature births. It helped me to reclaim the sense of being in my body. It helped me to find comfort in the midst of change, especially that all too common sandwich generation of caring for and saying goodbye to aging parents. Yoga also helped me to savor the goodness in my life and to do my best to live each day in the present moment with gratitude. I did not need science to tell me that yoga helped me to be a better mom, a better wife, a better me, or to live a better life. This is Satbir Singh Khalsa, PhD, Harvard Medical School. He has been studying and researching yoga and meditation for over a decade. And what he says is, this is preventative medicine, real biology, not a placebo, not a hobby. And I challenge you to try it. Which is why at this time, I'd like to encourage each and every one of you and hope that you might be inspired to carve out some time to cultivate health in your body and peace in your hearts. And my vision for you is that when you do this, that it will spill out to your family members, to your coworkers, to those who you love and care for, near and far, and even those who you feel challenged by. And then it can spill out to be of support and benefit for all beings everywhere. And I believe this to be true because over the years, I've been exposed to things like quantum physics, something known as the morphinogenic field, the field of our mind expanding far beyond our brains, a kind of mental telepathy that says there could be a tipping point, that if just one more person on the planet picks up a peaceful practice, and that person could be here in this room today, that there would be an instantaneous shift in everyone's awareness, and the peace from our individual hearts would be communicated directly from mind to mind to mind, spontaneously to everyone, everywhere on the planet. So I looked for validation that this was true, so I could share it with you today. And I looked, and I read, and I looked, and I Googled, and I read some more. And what I found was that this mysterious psychic phenomenon has been researched. Books and articles have been published. But I couldn't find any hard scientific data, peer-reviewed studies, to say that the tipping point was real. But that doesn't mean I'll stop looking. And it doesn't mean it's not there. And you know Einstein would be on it. He would never stop questioning. So I'd like to have you invite in faith and trust that we each have the capacity to heal ourselves and the potential to heal the world. That peace on earth is possible. And for this to be true, I ask you, is it science? Is it faith? Or does it matter? And by the way, I do love to get upside down. I love to stand on my head. Everywhere and anywhere we'd go, as a family on vacation, I'd ask my kids to take pictures of me doing a headstand. I knew I was driving them crazy until they started to say things like, "Hey, Mom, this looks like a great place for a headstand. Do you want me to take your picture?" And my favorite of all, my son at the beach, "Mom, take a picture of me in a headstand." You see, it's not that hard to do. Anyone can get upside down because it could look like this. It could look like this. It might even look like this. Einstein was quoted as saying that the most important question you could ever ask yourself is the world a peaceful place? It looks pretty peaceful for me from here. Thank you.